All right, everybody, we are going to bring on some wonderful and amazing co-founders of a very successful company. One has flown from Philadelphia, and the other from Washington, D.C. Now, that means that they are from different generations as co-founders, but are also remotely working. It's quite 2018 or 2019, if I say. That's pretty awesome. Can we give a round of applause just for that thought in general? That is so amazing. I am excited to introduce to you the co-founders of OneClick.chat. It's a software that sets the standard for ease of use in the video conferencing industry. Alan Gibson, who is the baby boomer. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Woo! And we have Dylan Myers, who is the millennial. Let's give him a round of applause. Guys, come on up here. They're going to give us an idea of the intergenerational startup success story. So one more round of applause for these wonderful co-founders here today who flew in for this event only.
Is it working? Yes? Great. So I'm Alan Gibson. This is Dylan Myers. I'm not going to do the obvious joke about which one is the boomer and which one is the millennial, because I think I can see from some of the expressions on your face that it is a little confusing. So we'll just leave it at that, and you're not alone. People mix us up all the time. Anyway, we're going to have a conversation with Brooke Chesnut, who is waiting in the wings. But before we start, we wanted to kind of introduce ourselves just a little bit because we're unknowns. So let's start out with Dylan. Give us a brief bio.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Dylan Myers. I'm the CEO of OneClick.chat. I graduated from Washington and Lee in 2014. And after that, I joined an entrepreneurial fellowship program called Venture for America. And I started off as the COO of a startup based in Columbus, Ohio, before I met Alan, and we came up with the original idea for OneClick.chat. And so we've been building that for the last 3 years, been working on it full-time for the last 2 years, and it's been an amazing journey working with Alan, who he can now give him a little background about himself.
Since I'm older, I have a longer bio, but I'll try to race through it. The relevant part of it is that I had a lifelong career in advertising, and it was just a magical thing for me. I got started, I was 30 years old when I really started this career, and I fell into a situation that was just really, as I say, it was magical. I entered as a copywriter. And I thought that I was going to change the world with all of my wonderful commercials. And through a series of kind of unexplainable events, in about 4 months, I became director of this agency. So I had to learn, I'm not saying this to brag, but I had to learn art direction, production. This is a long time ago. I mean, you had to learn how to put ads together and how to record radio commercials and television spots. And so I had to learn all those things, and I had to learn media buying and client servicing. So it was this wonderful opportunity where I got to drill down. Well, I had to, in order to run this company. I had to learn all this stuff fast. And it was really fun. And like any good 30-year-old, you know, I stayed at the office all the time. I was always there. And it was really terrific because it prepared me for a lifelong career in advertising. So I could understand really most of the elements that go into that business. So my first job was retail, and anybody that's been in retail advertising knows that that's a real churn, you know, you're just always doing stuff. And after a while, I was asked to start an agency in town affiliated with a great big PR firm. And all of a sudden, it's like my experience scaled, to use the term that we like to use in entrepreneurship. So I went from having one client, which was a very big client, but to having the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. So I would do dozens of ads every week for all these different kinds of attractions, ballet and theater and so on and so forth. And TV was just kind of, getting to be accessible to people to produce. So I was producing with Peter Falk and interesting celebrities that were performing at the Kennedy Center. And it was just a very glamorous job, and I just loved it. But then I got registered as a foreign agent because I had another interesting client, and it was an emperor, the Emperor of Japan. And I remember doing copy for him, and we'd have to fly the copy all the way to Japan every night so he could reread it, change one little word, send it back. We'd have to spend 2 days back then to redo an ad. We'd put it on a plane again, send it back to the emperor, who would finally sign off for it. Anyway, that was a very interesting game. I had another client, the Kingdom of Morocco, which was also fun. And then Ferdinand Marcos. Not too proud of the fact that I did work for him. I'm still doing a lot of community service to kind of wipe away that karma, but it was really a very interesting time for me. So one other point that I would like to make about me is to set my life into perspective. For some of you that don't understand what a baby boomer went through. My first job out of college was as a French master, and that was at a boys' private school in Bethesda, Maryland. I say this because the sister school was Holton Arms. Does anybody know Holton Arms? Anybody heard of it? It's where Dr. Christine Blasey Ford went. And I could have had her as a student because I was offered a job there, but I didn't take it. But our school, the Landon School, also played sports with Georgetown Prep, which is where Justice Kavanaugh went. You've all been hearing about that, I'm sure. So by the time I finished teaching, Dr. Ford and Justice Kavanaugh were probably just leaving the 9th grade. So anyway, that's to put my time frame into perspective. So what we'd like to talk to you a little bit before we start with Brooke is what the heck we do. OneClick.chat, some of you were polite enough to ask because we've been broadcasting it on our shirts. But OneClick.chat is a video chat platform that has 2 products. If we can go to the next one. And the first product is what we call meeting rooms. If any of you have used Skype or use FaceTime or any of the other apps like Google Hangouts, Zoom, if you use those, you are a potential customer of OneClick.chat, just to kind of make it easy. We make video chat, however, super, super simple. So if you've ever been a Skype customer or a Google Hangouts customer and you've been disappointed in the way it's worked, you are definitely one of our customers. So you can imagine sometimes you have a conference call that starts at 3 o'clock. It's 2 minutes to 3, and you go, oh my God, I've got a conference call at 3 o'clock. So what do? You scroll through your emails. What was the name of it? What was that link again? Where am I supposed to go? And then you find it, and you find out you have to download something, and now it's like, it's after 3, and you're late, but you're downloading this app, and then it wants an ID number, and so you got to go scroll again and find out the ID. Anyway, we eliminate all that. We make it super, super simple. It's cloud-based. There's nothing to download. You just simply click on a link. And we had a different name not too long ago for our company. But our clients kept saying, guys, this is really easy. All you need to do is one click. And after hearing it over and over again, we finally kind of went like, hey, our customers are telling us something. And so we decided to change our name. Anyway, so a meeting room looks like this. You can have up to 12 people. As I say, it's super simple. We have some features on it, but we are not overly complicated. So everybody likes using it so far because it's new. It's based on new technology. Skype and the other ones use, they're the dinosaurs in the room, but it's old technology. So what we've got now is the future, and it's really terrific. So, want to say anything else?
Yeah, and the second product we have, we call them live video events. And so you can think of these almost like an interactive webinar or a virtual conference. And the thing that really makes these unique, right? So these can be for events with 15 or a few thousand people that attend this virtual event. And the thing that really makes it different is instead of just a presenter presenting to an audience, they also have the opportunity to connect the audience with each other through breakout groups. So you can imagine that when we're at a conference right now, one of the best parts of this conference is that you all have the opportunity to interact with each other. It's really at the heart of bringing people together and bringing community together. And that type of physical event hasn't yet translated to virtual events. And so that's what we use right now with the breakout groups, is it allows organizations to connect their communities together virtually. And so I know Alan mentioned that we're easy to use. This is just a graph that shows how easy to use we are. And the reason why I bring this up is it's for two reasons. One is that I think a lot of it has to do with our cross-generational team. The fact that we span multiple generations means that we get multiple generations input on the product design, and that affects how easy it is to use, not just for younger people, but for older people as well, because we interact with technology and products in different ways. And then the second thing is, because we're so easy to use, one of the areas in the communities that we've gained the most traction in with this live video event that involves this social engagement is with older adults 65 years and older. There's actually a stat that 42.6 million people in the United States over 45 years old face feelings of chronic feelings of loneliness. And so what we've done is we've been using our platform, this breakout group concept, to use it as a tool to provide more social engagement to older adults. And the impact of increasing social engagement has a lot of really positive health outcomes for older adults. And so these are some of the things that we're working on now. And we were recently funded with a small business innovation research grant from the National Institute of Health to continue that work. So I just wanted to mention that is definitely one of the benefits of having an intergenerational team, is having that impact and creating that ease of use for all generations to use our product. And I really think it's helped our product development in a lot of different areas within our business. And so this is just an idea of the market segments that we're going after with that specific product. And here is the team that's making it happen. We have a core team of 5 full-time employees that span 4 generations. And here's our research team here. And so that was just a little bit of a background about our company, our business. But now we wanted to bring Brooke up on stage with us to dive a little bit deeper into the actual mechanics of how we work as an intergenerational team. And we want to make it interactive too, so if any of you in the audience have any questions about how we formed or how we've been working together, we're happy to answer them.
And one thing I failed to mention was we've got some, they're like coupons. They're small little flyers, and I think they're placed at several tables around. If you take them, it'll give you a free trial of our meeting rooms. And as I say, almost anybody in this room is conceivably a customer of ours, because we all use video these days. And we'd love it if you would try it and use it as much as you want to and see what you think. We'd love to hear your feedback. So you can find those in the back.
Can you hear me? I apologize. They make it sound so easy. Don't you think? Throwing around the big words of multi-generational this and different generations that. So one of the questions that's been on my mind, and I would like for all of you to think of maybe a question. I'll get you a microphone so we can ask them. But I would like to know, what were some of the biggest challenges for you as a boomer working with a millennial, but also a millennial working with a boomer?
Well, I think the funniest thing is this. I think the funniest thing is that when we first met, so we met at, we both went to the same university. Yeah.
Let me tell you how we met.
Yeah.
Because I think this is, we both, this is the way we run, okay? So we were both at an alumni reunion. We both went to the same university, Washington and Lee University. And
a couple years apart.
A couple years apart, yeah. And for one reason or another, each of us was attending the reunion alone, okay? And so at the end of the day, I ended up in a cocktail party, seated next to a woman who I sensed was like from Senegal or somewhere in West Africa, just by her accent. I was a French major. I still speak French. And I turned to her and I asked her something in French. Was she French or doing something? She immediately turned back to me. We talked, we became fast friends, you know. And she said, oh, you've got to meet my friend Dylan, who was sitting just across the room. And I said, why? And she said, well, Dylan is a really neat guy. Turns out they're best friends. And that he was an entrepreneur and studied entrepreneurship and was a fellow in the Venture for America program, and it's somebody I definitely should meet. Well, we met, and I said, okay, big shot, I've got this idea. And I had an idea. I'd had an idea for about 2 years, and it's been spinning around in my head, and I never knew whether it was a good one or a bad one, but in any case, I didn't know what to do with it, because I'm terrible by myself. I've really accomplished very little by myself. I need a sidekick and a partner and a whatever. So I pitched the idea to him, and he said, I like that. And I said, well, look, you know, I'm an old alumnus. You know, we went to this school. We're all gentlemen here. It's, you know, it's one of the shticks about Washington and Lee is everyone's a gentleman. And I said, you don't have to be nice to me. That's okay. He said, no, I really like the idea. I really like it. Anyway, later that night, we got together for another drink at the end of the day, and we started talking about what would it be like if we formed a company. Well, then fast forward to, you know, a few weeks later, we started, you know, seeing each other more often, talking to each other more often on video chat. And why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, and that's really how it formed. I mean, we didn't approach it like we were seeking out this intergenerational co-founding team. We kind of met not really thinking about the age difference. And then as we started talking and working together, it just fit really well. And I don't think we came up across a lot of the stereotypes. Maybe we're misfits for our generation, but it just worked really well, and it felt natural to form a team. And it happened gradually over time, and that's how we really formed.
Yeah, it never really occurred to me that he was 25 then, 4? I don't know.
24, yeah.
Whatever, 24? Never really occurred to me. It was just, he was interested in the thing, and he had a skill set that sounded interesting, and I was looking for somebody to help me with this project and maybe run with it, and he seemed interested. And I don't know, it just seemed like, hey, what the heck, let's see what happens.
Okay, thanks for that.
I didn't answer your question.
No, it did not. Did you notice that? We want to know, I would like to know, maybe some of you, but where was the challenges here? Because we've got the boomer here, you know, were there any Xers involved here? And besides the millennial, do you have some Gen Zers as well? But what were the challenging times? When did it get difficult, and how did you overcome it?
It got difficult at the beginning, and not right at the beginning, but as we decided that we were going to form a company, okay, once you start forming a company and you get lawyers involved and you start doing paperwork, then it's like, all right, how are we going to divvy this thing up? How is it going to work? And Dylan, I'm going to speak for him. He can contradict me. I am going to speak to him for him. He was a little wary about starting a business with me, and not necessarily with me, but with, I guess, a boomer, maybe. I don't know. Because he knew what was involved in a startup. He'd been working at startups. He was working at one when we started our company. And he was afraid that he would end up doing all the work, and I wouldn't be participating as much. And then in the end, we would get the same amount of money, and how fair was that? And by the same token, I was not thinking, oh, he's going to do all the work, and we're going to split it. That never entered my mind. I knew we would be sharing this thing. But it was a little awkward at first. And I thought, I don't know, maybe this isn't the right guy for me. But, you know, after about a week of talking it through, we just worked it out. And we decided, you know, it was all for one and one for all. And I think we both got comfortable with each other. I mean, and honestly, we haven't had a spat since. Have we?
No, no, yeah, absolutely.
I wish we could, because it would be more fun for you, right?
Thank you. Does anybody have a question that's just needing to be asked? And I'll bring the microphone over so that everyone can hear you. I have a gentleman right here in the front table.
So Dylan, how have you handled the anxiety of your inexperience with in relation to Alan?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I've always looked at it, and I think part of the reason why I gravitated to, and became very comfortable with working with someone older than me is because when you think about entrepreneurship, especially out of college, there's no clear-cut path, right? I mean, if you're going to become a banker or if you're going to become a doctor, you know you have to go to medical school, you get a job on Wall Street, and you move forward. But when you're coming out of college and you don't have that clear-cut path, maybe you have an idea, maybe you don't know what the right next step is, you have to kind of find mentors along the way. So I think I've always gravitated towards working with people that have a lot of experience. And I think, I mean, you frame it as anxiety around inexperience, but I don't really look at it that way. I mean, Alan is very experienced, and that has been extremely valuable while we work together. But the other side of not having a lot of experience is that I don't know how things are supposed to be done, so I create my own path, and I think of things outside of the box because I don't really know what the box is. And I think having that balance between those two things has really helped us along the journey.
And I do have a lot of experience that I bring to our partnership here, but also Dylan has a lot of experience. He has a lot of experience with startups, which is something that was totally foreign to me. Well, you know, I have had startup businesses before. I wouldn't call them a startup. It was just I was on my own and did advertising, but I never thought of it as a startup. It was just a company, you know. One of the things I'm doing right now, which is very weird, somebody said, shouldn't we all be retired by now? And yes, we should, but I can't stop. And even if I wanted to, I've kind of created another startup on the side. I'm producing two feature-length movies that'll be out next year. One of them is based on a novel that I wrote. I mean, I just finished my third cheesy novel, and they're being made into movies, and we've cast it, and it's happening, and we're shooting in the spring, and it's all very exciting, and that's an intergenerational thing too, because they're all Hollywood people, you know. So there's young people and old people and all that kind of stuff. But this is my passion right here. So.
Thank you both. Who else has a good question here? We'll try a different table.
So I'm curious, what does leadership look like if you're trying to facilitate or promote collaboration?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of leadership in our startup, we have a very flat hierarchy right now. So we have a core team of 5 people, and it's extremely collaborative. Everyone wears a lot of different hats. So when we're doing things like product design and product development or planning out the business development strategy, everyone has input. I mean, we have leads in different areas. He's got an extensive background in marketing, so he always serves as the lead when we're discussing strategy around that. I have more of a background around technology and product development, so I serve as a lead on that. But we bring input from everyone within our organization, and we have a very flat hierarchy. And I think that really is one of the main things that promotes the collaboration.
Yeah, and you know, one of the stereotypes about millennials is that they're difficult to manage. And as Dylan said, we have a flat hierarchy, so nobody's managing anybody. So that's terrific. We don't run into those problems. You know, Dylan is the CEO, and so you know he's the central person in all this, and everything flows through Dylan. But he's not any more my boss than I am his boss. So it works out. We kind of boss the other people, though. I mean, there's, we said we're a team of 5, so, you know, we do have, you know, there is a hierarchy. Let's not kid ourselves. But, you know, it's interesting because a couple of the other members of the team are older than Dylan, and they absolutely love his leadership. It is never, they've never questioned it. They find it valuable. When we're on video chat, you know, 24 hours a day practically, and you can see, you know, there's one person just kind of looking at Dylan like, wow, you're so smart. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Yeah.
Well done. Well done. Okay, we got time for 2 more.
Okay, I have a 2-part question. First of all, it's been shown that digital communications might reduce a sense of isolation, but it doesn't necessarily fully address loneliness. So I'm interested in how you might convert virtual relationships to real relationships. That's number one. And number 2, the research has shown that one of the best ways to reduce social isolation is through nostalgia. That's by research by Branchflower and others. Mm-hmm. So do you have any thoughts about the nostalgic aspect of building relationships virtually?
Yeah, thanks for those questions. And to tackle your first one, when we're talking about trying to mitigate feelings of loneliness or social isolation virtually, we're not promoting that to replace in-person connection. We're using it as a complement to see if, so our research right now through the NIH is actually studying to see what the positive effects are of forming those relationships virtually and making that more accessible. So more times throughout the day, someone has the ability to interact with someone instead of watching TV. Like one of the crazy stats is that when you're over the age of 65, the average amount of TV you watch every day is over 6 hours. And so if we can replace that with interaction with people, our goal is to see if that can reduce social isolation and feelings of loneliness. And then your second question, can you repeat your second question? Yeah, that's a great question. And so another part of our research right now is we're delving into what types of events can promote this social engagement among older adults. And so each of our events, they have particular topics. And actually something that's come up a lot is topics that promote reminiscing or nostalgia, because that does increase the social engagement. And that is something that older adults want to talk about. And one of the challenges is our research is studying for both healthy adults 65 years and older, and also a population of adults who have mild cognitive impairment, which is the earliest signs of Alzheimer's and dementia-related diseases. And so we're seeing how the different types of events like nostalgia can work with those different population groups as well.
And the research is also showing us some surprises. Yes, they love nostalgia, but they also love to talk about movies and arts and crafts, and they want to talk about books. They want to talk about a lot of things that we were frankly a little surprised. I mean, we hope that that's what they would want, because we're also, one of our aims is to create some content that we can provide these older adults in using our platform. And they're telling us what they want to hear, what they want to talk about. So again, the lab at the University of Illinois that is conducting the research with us is providing us with incredible information on that. Real surprises.
Wow, that's great. We have time for one more question. It's a young gentleman right here with his hand up. He seems to be anxious. What generation are you from?
The one you are all expecting me to be a part of. I also have 2 quick questions. First one, do you already, or are you planning to have streaming features with your platform into like Facebook or YouTube or anything like that?
Yeah, so that's on the product roadmap right now. Our CTO probably be done in the next 2 months, where if you host an event it will automatically publish to Facebook Live, YouTube Live, things like that. Yep.
Cool. My second question is, I kind of noticed like a father-son dynamic while you guys are speaking. I know that you said you're speaking for him. I have a question. Is there ever a challenge of like sharing of ideas or your ideas being heard in the company?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. That's a great question. I feel like there's a healthy flow of ideas back and forth, and I think one of the fundamental things that has helped us work so well together is just that mutual respect we have for each other and our ideas. And we disagree on some things like font size on the product, but we push through that and end up somewhere in the middle.
I think earlier someone was talking about how baby boomers look at content, how they read, and how millennials read. And I read line by line, and he likes to scroll. So, you know, we always have that battle about how we're gonna do our websites and how we're gonna do things like that. You know, the other thing that's happened, we are on the phone or we're on video chat literally hours and hours every day, and we have been for years. Now, we both have personal lives that are fulfilled, okay? We have better halves, let's say. But honestly, we have become, I mean, he's really my best friend after all this. I never expected it, but we just are together all the time, and we can read each other's minds, we can finish each other's sentences. I know this sounds like a love fest, and it kind of is. And what's interesting, we had a consultant come in one time and said, all right, now, and it's something I hate, I'm sorry, but it's like, draw a picture of what you see the future. It's like, oh God, okay. So I drew a picture, and it turned out it was a beach house. I said, you know, when we're done with all this and we have our exit strategy, my exit strategy is a beach house. And he said, well, I want to have one next door. How about that? Well, anyway, I need somebody to take care of me, you know, when I get old. But anyway,
Oh my God. Love fest, best friends. You make it sound so easy. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason we have come here today is to witness this amazing partnership and that intergenerational entrepreneurship is alive and well. And I would encourage all of you to connect with either one of these gentlemen to learn more so you can get over that hump. Now, I'd like to leave you with something that was written by Dylan in this blog. But as a boomer, I'm going to leave you with this. Stop showing off. Younger generations are more interested than ever before in entrepreneurship, but are less likely to actually start a company. Older generations are continuing to work later in life, but are less focused on putting in the long hours. If more collaboration occurs between the generations, everybody wins. Round of applause for our guests.
So close to you right now, it's a force field. I wear my heart up on my sleeve.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well, we're doing some selfie moments. Get your cameras out if you'd like to take a picture. And we encourage the selfies.